just picked up with a few of the issues you mentioned around that alignment internally within the organisation.
Mm.
And when you're going into negotiation or preparing or setting up for negotiations as well, you're really building up a team. And the team is just not your immediate negotiation team and procurement. You've got other stakeholders that have either impacted upon or
Yeah.
will influence the negotiations, or you have to serve. How do you approach that aspect of how you obviously build your team around procurement, and who needs to be considered as part of that?
I think it depends enormously. From a procurement team point of view, it depends enormously in the culture within which you are working. I mean, there are certain client organizations where procurement is embraced. I mean, it is a very well recognized function within the organization. Typically, large manufacturing industry, that sort of thing. I mean, procurement is very well established. And the reason it is simply because if you look at the cost of goods sold, in these businesses, it's pretty high. You can
Yep.
be looking at 75, 80% cost of goods sold in these sort of industries. And in that situation where managing the cost base is so critical, procurement's voice can be allowed one, and their position within the organization can be allowed one. But I remember back in my days, I worked in pharmaceuticals for 15 years. And back in those days, you were talking about 55, 60% cost of goods sold, which is getting a little bit more marginal. And in that situation, this procurement voice it's not soft, but it's not maybe quite as influential as it would be in a pure manufacturing thing.
Mm.
And I think let me use the word mandate loosely, but the more mandate procurement has from the organization, the easier procurement will find to mold and shape those teams, because
Yep.
their role
Yep.
is already established. The less mandate procurement has, the more it comes down to a more collaborative approach or consensual approach to team
Mm.
building, then comes more to the fore. But if I reflect back on some of the bigger things that I would have worked on over the years, I could have been dealing with multiple functions within the organizations. I could have been dealing
Mm.
with R&D, I could have been dealing with operations, I could have been dealing with manufacturing, I could have been dealing with finance, with legal, with whatever. And that's not uncommon, where you have these big stakeholder groups, all of whom have very strong views and very strong views as to what their interests are and what they believe the priorities of their organization could be. R&D's priorities are, or
Mm.
manufacturing's priorities are. And as procurement, you have to somehow bring all that together, because ultimately, if you're going to put together an RFP document, or you need to go out and have a negotiation with a supplier, you have to have an aligned set of interests. You have to
Mm.
have a common agreement on the issues that you want to bring to the table. And most importantly, and possibly in fact, most challengingly, the priorities of that. Because
Mm.
ultimately, without clarity around
Yep.
your own priorities, you're kind of second guessing a lot of the time. And of course, that's just part of the preparation process. You've then got to decide, well, who is actually going to negotiate? Who's actually going to be part of the negotiation team? And I remember, one of your previous interviewees, and you and I were chatting about this earlier on, Dr. Hal Movius, who you interviewed a couple of years ago, and Hal and I have written some things together over the years. In the so the Harvard paper we did a couple of years ago, we talk about thinking about what we call negotiator DNA, and what we are
Mm.
thinking about in terms of decision processes. And what we meant by that was, the D stands for who are the decision makers, the true decision makers.
Yeah.
Who are the negotiators, the ones you will be negotiating with, and who are the associates, the A's, associates or advisors. Who else within the organization will contribute to the decision, but
Mm.
might not actually be the decision makers themselves. And often the decision makers ultimately will be the budget holders. So,
Mm.
again, there's all
Yeah.
these decisions to be made. Who needs to input, who needs to be part of the team? Will the stakeholders, will the stakeholders trust procurement enough to
Mm.
negotiate on their behalf without them being present? Now, all of that is what I call, Peter, a big internal negotiation. No matter which
Mm.
way you look at it, it is managing conflict, it's managing difference of
Mm.
opinion. And oftentimes people don't think about it like that. I keep saying when I'm training and coaching, every internal meeting you have in your own organization is an opportunity for a negotiation if
Yeah.
you approach it like that. and it's not just about to kick things around. It's not to problem solve. It actually is an opportunity to negotiate. And actually, I think procurement, when it's done well internally, procurement is a very elegant tool to bring people together, but it must take some real skill and some real interpersonal skills to do that, which is often not associated with procurement publicly, but it's
Yeah,
there.
exactly. And I pick up from what you were just saying is the idea of having that clarity and cohesion within your team, the alignment, everyone's on the same page, but also how you've got that authority, your boundaries within, your mandate to negotiate and to go from there
Yeah,
as well. And that's part of that preparation process, no doubt. As they
it
say,
absolutely
up
is.
to
Yeah.
80% of success is the
Mm.
preparation phase. Thank you for that. I appreciate that outline. Kinad Negotiation is your business, and is there anything you would like to cover there about reaching out to the audience or prospective clients that want to get in touch with you at this?
No, other than just, drop me an email, go to the website, I can be contacted through, through either. I love a challenge, and
Great.
I love helping bring this stuff to life. That's what really gives me the buzz. It's not so much the teaching element, it's the actually bringing it to life. So I thoroughly enjoy it.
Thanks, Tom.
My pleasure. Thank you for the invite, Peter.
Wonderful. All the best. Thank you.